Chair lays out on second reading HJR 38. The clerk will read the resolution.
HJR 38 by Leach, proposing a constitutional amendment prohibiting the imposition of an individual income tax.
Chair recognizes Representative Leach to explain the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, it's my honor to lay out today and to ask for your favorable consideration on House Joint Resolution 38. Members, this House Joint Resolution 38, if passed, will amend the Texas Constitution to prohibit a personal income tax. To be honest, members, many of you and many of your constituents, in fact, I've had some conversations on the floor today in this regard, might believe that a state income tax is already banned under the Constitution. The fact is that's simply not the case. Currently, under Texas Constitution Article 8, Section 24, that provision allows the legislature by general law to impose an income tax on our fellow Texans. This would include on an individual's share of partnership and unincorporated association income. So members, under current law, a legislator could, many of us could, in any legislative session, file and present a bill that would impose a state income tax, receive a simple majority vote in either the House or the Senate, and that vote would then be put on the ballot for a simple majority of Texans to approve in a statewide referendum. If this House Joint Resolution passes with 100 votes today and 2/3 of the Senate and receives the governor's signature, the people of Texas will, this November, be able to soundly reject in stone in our Constitution the possibility of a state income tax. And members, this would align with what the vast majority of Texans want. Recent polling suggests that across all ages, races, backgrounds, income levels, genders, political parties, and parts of this state, Texans soundly reject the idea of an income tax. Just this past February, in a statewide poll commissioned by the University of Texas and the Texas Tribune, over 70% of Texans stated that the state should not consider a state income tax. That's 70% of Texans, over 70%. Only 16% of Texans said that we should consider it. To break down those numbers just a little bit more for your benefit, 75% of rural Texans, 74% of suburban Texans, and 62% of urban Texans reject an income tax. 77% of Anglo-Texans, 64% of Hispanic Texans, and 54% of Black Texans reject an income tax. 85% of Republicans, 56% of Democrats, and 74% of independents reject an income tax. And even more so, if you look at other states and ask what states are doing well, which ones are not, the evidence is clear that generally the states that tax the income of their citizens are struggling. And the states that leave the paychecks of their citizens alone are thriving. This is no secret to any of us. Finally, members, as all of us can attest, this session has been laser focused on working together in this chamber to keep Texas strong and to make it stronger. From the start of this session, we've worked together, even through our disagreements, to pass legislation to advance policies that strengthen our economy, create jobs, invest in education, that keep our communities safe, safeguard our free markets, and protect the liberties of our fellow Texans. We've done all of this while at the same time ensuring that the core priorities of our state government are fully and prudently funded. So members, in closing, with 3 weeks to go, while we debate and deliberate on the final details on major education and property tax reform legislation, and as we work to finalize our budget, I'm proposing today that we band together and with the passage of House Joint Resolution 38, send a message, a strong message to the rest of the nation, and most importantly to our fellow Texans, those 28 million Texans that were elected to serve, that the state of Texas believe that the people outside of this building, not those inside of this building, believe that the money earned by hardworking Texans is best secured in their own pockets and best spent under their own volition. I encourage you and invite you to join with me today, members, and let's soundly and strongly, on behalf of those 28 million Texans we represent, say no to a state income tax. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to take questions.